Cool, right?
Yeah. I learned a lot.
He does a great job. And we just went through like whole networking stacks, how to build, your kind of own SDN, how IPv6 works, which I actually have been pretty confused on for several years. It's all those numbers and letters together. But Kurt does a great job explaining it out simply, which seems like a big selling point for his platform.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we get to introduce Mehdi.
Hey, Zach.
Hey, how you doing?
Can you hear me okay?
You're broadcasting loud and clear.
Awesome. I was going to do the UDP joke, but you stole that away from me.
Somebody always has to do it.
Good seeing you.
Cool. Well, so let me go ahead and introduce. This is Maddie from Catchpoint. I'm sure you'll give an intro, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you? What's going on? And I know Grace has queued up a couple questions for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, thank you, Zach. Thank you, Grace. So, Maddie, co-founder and CEO of Catchpoint. We're in the IT monitoring space, and we've been around for 12 years now. And I used to work at DoubleClick before. I took DoubleClick down, and I guess karma is paying me back, and I've been monitoring for the rest of my life.
It's not a bad place to be.
No, can't complain.
Awesome. Well, before you get started, I do have a random question. We've been asking everyone random questions, and you've got a really great one. So what was the first computer you had in your home?
So actually, I have them with me right here.
Oh, what?
All right.
And that was
an
Atari 600.
Awesome. Nice. Well, maybe another talk for another day, but you can give us a tour of what seems to be your hall of computers so that we can take a look at what you've been working with.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So I think we're going to be talking about digital user experiences, and I have a bunch of slides, but hopefully, we can make this as interactive as possible. So we'll talk about like what is digital experiences, why is it important, why is it also complex to manage, and what can you do to tame this beast, right? So it's all about digital. We know that, and COVID actually has accelerated a lot of digital transformation in the last year. So it's all about digital. It's all about pleasing the user experience. It's literally every interaction that the customer has with the company that only happens through a digital media, right? To your computer, your phone, a chat, etc. So that's what digital experience is. And digital customer experiences is just the sum of all these interactions. Now, when things don't go well, this was not this past Black Friday, but the previous one, was Costco, where they were completely down for the entire Black Friday season, and this resulted in a lot of dollars wasted. The other thing is when you think about like the top 19 banks in the US, they have 445 domains across every single web page, and 168 of them are on AWS. Imagine what would happen if AWS had an outage or a slowdown. Well, you wouldn't be able to log in, or you would experience really nasty experiences with your bank. So digital experiences are everywhere. They're pervasive. They're everywhere, from ordering food these days to obviously not so much booking a trip, but we're getting through that. But it's literally both consumers and employees and the workforce that is impacted by digital experiences. So why is it important? Because it impacts revenue. It impacts brand, and it impacts operational excellence. Bad user experience has a negative impact on your revenue as a company, on your brand. People will go on Twitter and complain. And obviously, as an IT organization, you don't want to be dealing with like one outage after another. And so delivering also great digital experiences to users is more than just code and databases and networks and routers. It's literally a whole delivery chain that happens. And the challenge with that is, over the years, that delivery chain has gotten a lot more complex. We used to have one CDN. We have multiple. We used to have, we didn't used to have public DNS servers like Cloudflare and Google and OpenDNS. Now we have. So all these things can have an impact on your user experience, and you don't have a lot of control, therefore no visibility from those for those particular things. So, you know, I used to be in IT ops. I still love to do that, obviously, as you can see from my collection. But we went from literally finding a needle in a haystack to trying to find a needle in these clouds, in all these complex infrastructures that are running what we use on a daily basis. Now, we talk a lot about observability, but at the end of the day, how can you observe something that you cannot see? We're still a little bit blind at connecting all the dots and making sure that we understand what's happening. And this is probably going to resonate with many of us, or many of you. It's the brainstorming, the finger pointing, the mean time to innocence. And so this is real. I still see it with many of our customers. Is like, is it the network, the database, the infrastructure? Is it something outside of our control? And I think this is what's driving a lot of the productivity down, and just like this sense of the burnout that either IT ops or SREs have. So every IT organization I talk to and I have the pleasure of spending time with is focusing on reducing the mean time to repair. I think this is the critical metric that we all care about. So shrinking the detect, shrinking the identify, the escalation, and the fixing, and obviously the validation. So MTTR is still king, and it's really about just like, how can we shrink all these elements of this equation? And so when I was saying earlier, it's difficult to get the end user experiences because the traditional monitoring, although very, very necessary, you need your APM, you need a bunch of other things, but it's not looking at things from an end user. If a user cannot get to you, how can you really have telemetry at that point? So it's very important to measure things from where it matters the most, which is the end user. And so the other thing that happened this past year is these two guys got together and then COVID hit. And what happened with that is literally a complete acceleration of digital transformation. So this is a truth number one. Truth number two is software is eating the world. IKEA is just a tech company selling furniture these days. Tesla is a tech company selling and building cars. So software is eating the world, and this is going to accelerate. The other thing is the outcome economy. So this is truth number three, is the outcome economy is very important. You know, as a user, as a consumer, all we care about is having great outcomes. So how do we win? And it's really about focusing, right? Focusing on what you can control, your processes, your security, your performance, strategic decisions. So that's what's in our control, and that's what we can work on. The first thing I've seen is companies that have implemented SRE and DevOps practices have increased and improved their reliability. So this is a very important thing that I've seen over and over again. The other thing is metrics-driven organization. Extremely important to collect the right telemetry, set up the right SLAs or SLOs internally and externally, and you become an accountable organization. Having one option is not an option anymore. Relying on one single vendor for certain things is literally extremely dangerous. You know, 2017 was a huge wake-up call when Dyn had an outage. You have S3 having outages. So having one option is no longer an option. And what we help our customers do is this focus on this relentless, on these four pillars. Reachability, availability, performance, and reliability. So that's another recipe for winning. Can I get there? Are you up or down? Are you slow or fast? And are you working consistently? So these are the four pillars that we live by with our customers. So I brought some examples with me. Reachability. The internet is complex. We're at an Equinix panel here. We know this. It's a series of tubes, and sometimes they have problems. We just saw that recently in January, where Verizon fiber cut on the East Coast impacted a bunch of services that we couldn't even figure out why is Verizon fiber cut in the Brooklyn area impacting things in Boston, for example. We're starting to see impacts of state sponsor connection issues or disruptions. So this was Russia that decided to block certain IPs from AWS and then ended up blocking a bunch of other services. So the reachability is very important. It's something that people need to keep an eye on. Availability is the second pillar, as I was mentioning. And so this is an example of a real customer that basically their servers didn't like Mondays. They just had the blues and didn't like to work on Mondays and Tuesdays. But on Sunday it was fine. So the traffic patterns, the number of users on their systems had an impact on their availability. The other thing that we're noticing around the availability is the rise of micro outages. And the micro outage is either determined by the time, maybe time of day or time of week, the duration, so it's something short, maybe less than 10 minutes, a location very specific to either a geography or an ISP or a particular hosting facility or cloud provider. But this is something that we're seeing a tremendous amount of these days. So I brought two examples here. One is literally you can see these spikes of errors, or we see a lot of DDoS attacks on some of our customers, and you typically see a little burst. Somebody's doing a little bit of testing to see if the guards will go on, and then they go full blown on from a DDoS perspective. The third pillar is performance, slowness. Latency is a killer. And I think the whole topic of proximity is very important to me, because everybody needs to think globally but act locally. This was an example of Seiko when they launched a website and they thought that everybody was in Tokyo, but me from Los Angeles, it literally took ages to load the page because everything was served out of Tokyo. Not a great way to deliver great user experiences. The other thing from a performance standpoint is, even though you can do everything possible to ensure great performance, you have so many domains and so many host names and third parties on your web pages, for example, that things are bound to happen. Bad things are bound to happen. So this is an example of a website, a travel website, 44 domains, 252 requests. What can go wrong, right? And so the impact of a bad third party having a bad day, like in this case, this company called Dialog Tech a few years ago, literally took down the entire shopping process of buying a hotel or reserving a hotel or an airline. And all of that was also a combination of reachability issues. Obviously, CDNs have made things better. However, it's very important to trust and verify your CDN. So this is JCrew, where even though with an image optimization, they were serving a 41 meg image to all the users out there, and that had an impact on performance. 41 meg is a lot for an image. I don't care how good that cardigan looks like. It's very important to enforce your performance from the CDNs. It's about latency, so it's very important to do that. The other thing that we see from a performance is, as customers start migrating to the cloud or whatnot, one of the things we see is like older equipment versus newer equipment. On the right side, you have, this is the same service running on two cloud vendors. One was deployed 2 years ago and one is newer. And you can see that the old equipment is more prone to errors, more prone to latency issues. And then finally, reliability. And so reliability can be defined in many ways, but I think it's the pinnacle of those three pillars. It's literally the ability to be consistent, and it's also making sure that whatever you serve is okay. So this was healthcare.gov in the early days when they launched it. And as you can see, the fluctuation of performance was horrible. I have to apologize. My dog wants to participate in this Equinix. And so the performance was really impacted during the busy hours at around noon, when everybody would go and serve or try to sign up for healthcare.gov. Another example is this one, where everything can be fast when you're delivering 0-byte files. So in this particular case, a CDN was delivering a 0-byte JavaScript. And so, yeah, it was 200 okay. The server responded and worked accordingly, but the file was corrupt, and then nobody could book a flight again. So in conclusion, I just want to leave you with a few thoughts. One is, we're dealing with unknowns in the world we live in today. With end users everywhere, employees now working from home, the unknown is what drives a lot of the crises that nobody has answers on, or not even knowing that you're having a problem is actually the worst. The other thing is, slow is the new down. I think you might have heard this before, but availability is pretty well controlled these days. We have great companies delivering great infrastructure, companies like Equinix, but the slowness is the new down today. And then if you're going to go through a transformation, adoption of SREs or just digital transformation in general, it's very important to keep in mind that even your monitoring strategy needs to change it and be more end user centric. And to finish, this is a real example that happened last summer from Los Angeles. This was a major cloud provider that literally the connect time, so the TCP handshake time, went crazy, went from 37 millisecond to 120 millisecond for a period of time, about 6 months. And it was we saw that across multiple ISPs, especially Telia, but across multiple ISPs. And the problem was like literally all the users from LA went all the way to Spain trying to connect to the service that was hosted on GCP. And so when you think about latency and why we're here at Proximity, it really is about latency. And I'm sure Zach is going to grill me on this, but we've been fortunate enough to work with the Packet team and now Equinix around edge computing. And so the latency, again, I cannot stress this enough, the 3 acts of the internet, we need to build a better internet, something that is more resilient and faster. And so edge compute and being closer to the end users is extremely important. And that's it.
Whoa, here we go. Well, Maddie, that was awesome. Well, I know that if we want to find out.
Zach, I can't hear you.
Oops. No? Oh my God.
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I can hear me.
See, maybe it's on me.
I think it might be on you. So this is
there you go.
This is the perfect time for me to ask you questions when you can't hear me. Well, that was awesome, Mehdi. Thank you so much. And now I know if we want to find out about how something broke, you probably have a slide on it, right?
Yeah. But I told you I won't show that. So.
Okay. Well, I got some questions for you, and I'm sure Grace does as well. So because I took up all the airtime last time, Grace, you want to go first?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you. So thanks, Mehdi. That's really great. You know, digital is the new cloud, as in the term is now being used all over for every single stream and field of technology. But what do you think proximity, physical proximity to the edge really allows people to do, aside from latency? How does it allow for companies to grow and to scale well?
Well, again, so it's about creating great user experiences. I don't know if any of you has gone through the doctor during COVID, but I had to do my annual physical checkup over a video software, and it wasn't Zoom, it wasn't StreamYard, but the experience was just horrible. Mm. It was just horrible. The doctor was choppy. It's like, what? Do I have what? And so proximity solves that, right? I'm sure if they were using a better service that would deal with latency in a better way, I wouldn't have had to hang up and actually book a real visit to the doctor and taking the risk with the pandemic going on. So proximity is about education, is about healthcare, is about VR, it's about so many other industries, and it's also going to it's connected cars, it's your IoT devices at home. So I think it's also the fuel of a new generation of companies that haven't been invented yet, to be honest. So it's solving old problems, but I think it's going to create a whole new category of companies and solving new problems.
Awesome, thank you.
Well, it seems like, part of this, Mehdi, is just the plumbing of making it all work. And, you make it look easy, but tell me some of the tech behind the scenes that makes this go. Like, how many places are you monitoring or running your application to do this from? How many networks are you touching?
No, it's a great question, Zach. So we are in over 260 cities today around the world, with the major presence, obviously, in North America, China, Europe. We're expanding in Africa, Latin America. So we're a little bit everywhere. We have, and so what we do, like the core of our business is technology called synthetic monitoring or proactive monitoring. So we go in neutral facilities, like with Equinix in the US. We are Packet, of course, and bare metal. We're expanding there. So we go into these neutral facilities. We get our own hardware. We never cut cost on We never cut corners on where we are, so we don't rent some VPS at $10 a month kind of thing. So we control the hardware, and we basically bring multiple ISPs into every one of our locations, colo spaces. So we allow somebody to be able to continuously monitor from, let's say, Los Angeles level 3 or Bangalore Tata or Beijing China Telecom, because you want that continuous signal and you want good signal, right? And so we are, and then we just recently added our BGP capability. So combined BGP and synthetic, we're in over 1,400 locations today and growing.
Wow. So I guess that must be the dinner time conversation. Name a city that you've got infrastructure in, right?
Well, the craziest place we just opened in is Uzbekistan. So that was literally from a customer that was having a lot of, they're a big SaaS provider, and they were having a lot of complaints from customers that, hey, things were not working, but they didn't have the visibility. And it's not like you can go and ask people, can you run a trace route every 2 seconds?
Right.
So we opened up there, we added like 2-3 ISPs that mattered. And within a few minutes, they were able to pinpoint where the problems were. So we did another one with Saudi Arabia recently because of a big gaming company. And they used the CDN that was routing all the traffic from Saudi Arabia to Germany. And I don't know if you know, geography-wise, but that's pretty far away. Close. Right. And latency is very important, because when you're downloading a 5 gig file with a lot of retransmissions and latency, that's a bad user experience.
Well, the question here that comes to my mind is, I mean, Mehdi, you're talking about hundreds, thousands of locations that you're operating in. I mean, Catchpoint must be one of the most distributed applications running on the internet.
Well, I mean, you have Google and Salesforce and others, but yeah, we just crossed, I believe, the 10,000 server mark around the world. So it's, but we built it in a very scalable way. We just hired a VP of Ops that was a colleague of mine at DoubleClick and Google, and Tony. So I brought him in because literally we're looking at doubling or tripling that, and I need somebody that has Google scale to be able to manage that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then the other product that we're launching is what we call Endpoint, where we're going to take the synthetic capability and be deployed on people's desktops and laptops, right? So then suddenly our footprint is just going to grow dramatically.
And that's actually what I was going to ask, was where you're looking to go in the future, because we, here at Equinix Metal, we do have customers who do provide desktop as a service, but also the greater scheme of the world you mentioned at the beginning of your talk, we're now remote, right? Everyone is working from everywhere. And so how do you create that seamless endpoint experience when your endpoint is to be a virtual desktop?
Right. No, so before COVID, we used to ship these little devices that people would host at their offices to monitor SaaS providers like Salesforce, G Suite, Office 365, be able to test like a VPN on and off and all of that, or like an SD-WAN solution. And now that everybody's remote, we shifted our focus to basically offer this capability from the desktop to be able to say, Zach is having a problem with Salesforce. Is everybody else having a problem with Salesforce, or is it just Zach? And if it's just Zach, is it his Wi-Fi? Is it his network? Is it his SD-WAN? So that's the shift that we've been working on over the last year, is solving those problems, right? Answering those problems. And because everybody needs to deliver a first-class experience to their employees, because some companies might go back to an office, others might be hybrid, and you don't want to have second-class citizen employees, right? So everybody needs to have a first-class experience with to be happy at work. And so how do you monitor for that? How do you become more proactive? I mean, how do you feel when you call your IT help desk and say, I'm having a problem, and yeah, I've never heard about that. Let me investigate. Would it be nice if you called your IT help desk and say, I'm having a problem, and say, yep, already on it. Don't worry, the fix is coming.
So going from tens of thousands of kind of probes to millions of probes, that's on your radar.
Yes.
Effectively.
Yes.
You like the pun, the radar thing? I kind of. put it in there for you, Maddie. Cool. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for telling us about Catchpoint. If people want to learn more, I'm assuming catchpoint.com or reach you on Twitter or something else like that.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. And then we just acquired web page tests, so you can do some web page test on webpagetest.org, and more stuff to come. And thank you so much for all the support that Equinix has provided to Catchpoint, and best of luck.
It's our pleasure, and I'm going to let John Lynn know that if he has any problems with his gaming rig reaching Counter-Strike, he's going to call you, and you can get him a probe, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right, Maddie. Well, we're going to take, Grace and I, let's take this opportunity to do a couple of reminders here. We want to make sure that for those of you who are joining in new, that you all know about a few important kind of housekeeping items. So our great friend Backstage Manager Tom has put up a link here. It's very important. It's our code of conduct. So please note that any of our events, whether they're streamed or in person on Zoom or whatnot, we have an important and how do I say it? A very strong belief that everybody has a voice and matters. And so we want to make sure if you guys are seeing any issues or feel that there's been a violation here, just open up a ticket to support@equinixmetal.com, and we'll go ahead and take care of it. And Grace, have you been following the hallway track? How's that going?
I have not, if I'm honest. I've been I was taking notes.
You were actually here.
I was actually here taking notes very loudly, as some of you might have heard before. And so I am going to hop into the hallway track, though, and kind of see what's going on. So next time you ask me that, I'll have a response.
Cool. So if you want to meet Grace there, you can go ahead over to slack.equinixmetal.com. It's our community Slack channel. Join if you're not already on that community, and we've got it going on there. Plenty of good questions and chatter coming about, and you can connect with some of the other people who are watching the live stream. Okay. And if Twitter is your thing, you can go ahead and say hello at @EquinixMetal, or tag us with #EquinixProximity. Yeah.